What is the difference between compressor and limiter? All right, let's answer that. To answer your question very quickly, a limiter is also a compressor, but not all compressors are limiters. Let me explain what I mean. With a compressor, basically what you're trying to do is tame the dynamic range of your signal. And how you control that is by setting your attack time, your threshold, your ratio, and your release times, okay? And then obviously you use your makeup gain to make up for the gain reduction that you get from compressing. For example, let's look at this compressor real quick. As you can see, it's a standard compressor. You have your threshold, attack, ratio, release time, and makeup gain. And if I play this sound, we're not getting any compression because the signal is not even getting close to the threshold at this point. But if we bring down the threshold, if you look up here, you see that we're starting to get some gain reduction, right? Let me drop that down a bit. Cool. Gain reduction. Compression is happening, but this compression is happening at a ratio of 2:1. So which means for every time the signal exceeds this threshold by 2 dB, the compressor is going to turn down the level by 1 dB. Now if I increase this to 4:1, it's going to attenuate by 1 dB for every time the signal exceeds the threshold by 4 dB. So that's essentially how this works. Now, typically with compressors, the higher your ratio, the higher the amount of compression you're going to get. But if you set your ratio to 20 and higher, your compressor becomes a limiter. And the compressor is going to stop any signal from exceeding your set threshold. So let's see if we can do that with this compressor, for example. So let's go 50:1 here. This automatically turns this compressor into a limiter. Another thing that differentiates a compressor from a limiter is the fact that with a compressor, you can typically adjust your attack times. You can go from very fast attack times to quite slow attack times. But with a limiter, the attack time is typically very fast, because a very fast attack time is very essential to making sure that nothing exceeds the threshold when you are limiting. So essentially, while you can use a compressor to tame your dynamic range, with a limiter, all you're doing is making sure that your signal doesn't exceed your threshold at all. And like I said, a limiter typically we have a faster attack time and a very high ratio. That's how limiters work. Obviously, that means you would use a compressor for vocals or drums or any instrument that you're trying to reduce the dynamic range of, and you use your limiter mostly for your master bus so that you can prevent your signals from exceeding a certain level, while also using the gain from the limiter to increase perceived loudness. Now, speaking of perceived loudness, you can actually also use limiters within your mix. For example, say you want to increase the level of your kick or increase the perceived level of your kick without losing headroom. You can actually use a limiter for that. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You can see that we are picking at -16 dB here. Now, we can actually use the limiter to increase our perceived loudness while still retaining our headroom. So we're going to set our ceiling to -16. Okay, and let's increase the gain by say 5 dB. And when we listen to the kick, you can hear that it's clearly louder, or the perceived loudness have increased, but we still have our headroom. We're still at -16 dB. Now, clearly, this will change the tone of the kick sometimes, or change the tone of the instrument. But this is useful if you're trying to gain headroom while also increase the perceived loudness of something like a kick or bass. So that's a very brilliant way to use a limiter, aside using it for your mastering. And if we listen to the context of the music,
which kind of pattern you they show me? I know that sunrise, I know that story. You know I was down to be a Clyde.
shouted.
Which kind of pattern you they show me? I know that sunrise, I know that story.
Now with the limiter on,
which kind of pattern you they show me? I know that sunrise, I know that story. You know I was down to be a Clyde.
so it's a very nice way to increase the perceived loudness of, say, your kick or bass and still retain your headroom. So to wrap it up, a compressor is used to tame the dynamic range of your signal, while a limiter is used to make sure that your signal doesn't exceed your threshold at all. Best for mastering, but you can also use it to create headrooms within your mix, while the compressor is great for anything else that you want to control the dynamic range. The dynamic range simply means the difference between the loudest part of a signal and the quiet part of a signal. All right, so I hope this answers your questions. And actually, you know what, if you have any questions like this, you can just leave them in the comment section below and I'll try to do my best to answer them. So that's going to be for now. If you got something from this, make sure you leave me a like and subscribe if you've not. And if you'd like to book my services on mixing and mastering, I'm going to leave a link below to the engineers page, or or you can hit me up on Instagram at BennyMacaulayDB. And if you liked about my vocal presets, my mastering preset for Logic and FL Studio, as well as my mixing and mastering template for Logic Pro or Pro Tools, I'm going to leave a link below as well. All right, so that's good to be for now, man. I shall see you on the next one. Benny Macaulay out.